Fall at Equestria, The Crystal's Howling Dance. By Megaskullmon. Read by Forrest M. Chapter 17. The First Seal.
A seal is to keep something from getting out.
Day 51. I opened my eyes, and I was in the chair outside. I stood up and stretched a bit. Seemed pretty early morning, and the only ones out were Bulwark and the two robots. I went inside the cave and noticed that the two seal rangers removed their armor and were still working at the seals. They drew the seals to get them open. I went to them calmly and yawned gently, sitting there watching them to see what they were doing. The two rangers had a book with them, writing down the information on it, and Lily turned to me with a gentle smile. Hello, Taria. We might need your help here if you don't mind. I blinked and walked over to them, tilting my head. She smiled and looked over to the book. It seems from what I learned from the info of the warden's office, they hid 4 books around the parts of Equestria. It seems the first one is located in a port town not far from here. I don't know anything about this little port town, so I would recommend having others go with you. I nodded, and she gave me a map of the area here, and it led to the town. I went out of the cave, and Kip was awake, and so was Shadow. They were talking, and they looked to me, and I showed them the map. Oh, that town is not safe. Why do you have a map of it? Shadow asked calmly, and Silvergunner walked up to me.
I would say gather some food, potions, and ammo, and head down there. It's where a book is located to break a seal on the stable.
Kip blinks, looking to Shadow, and she smirks.
I'm coming with you. I'm not staying here.
Shadow laughs, and Silver nodded. Let's go then, shall we? Said Silvergunner. Kip smiled and trotted off to go gather her supplies.
Finally, I can do something,
I said with a smile.
I'm getting tired of just sitting here doing nothing.
I blinked, watching Fleur's crew walking into the cave with parts of the cruise ship. Kip trotted back to us, watching this as well. I thought she was joking when she said she would tear down the cruise ship to build an inn in there, Kip calmly said, and I laughed.
I have learned to take whatever Fleur said seriously.
Kip had all her bags. I went to get my weapons from the case, opening it up and putting on my armor and getting my zebra pistol and the strange mace. I got my bags and journal as well, looking to Shadow, who just had the chewer on his back with ammo.
All right, let's go.
Bulwark kept the gate open for us, and I looked to her.
If we aren't back in 3 days, come and search for us.
She gave a nod, and we looked towards the east. I was told there was water down that way, but why would there be? I looked to Shadow, and then Silver, then to the map. The walk to get there would take us through what is called the Rad Scorpion Lands. Wonderful, I thought. The 4 of us walked slowly along the path. It was all of us to this mission, to find a book to remove the seal. Kip looked up to me with a gentle smile.
Have those 2 learned what is in that stable?
I looked to her calmly and shook my head.
I think they're trying to find out why they sealed it off in the first place. I'm hoping we don't find anything deadly in there.
Shadow chuckled softly, looking towards me with a smile. It's not a deadly place, really. Just for some reason, every pony there just vanished. No one knows why, really. I blinked, and Shadow flaps his wings to Kip and goes, "Ooh." Kip rolls her eyes and gives him a kiss.
Enough, brother. That's silly of you.
Shadow laughs and smiles at Kip as they're very close now, and I love the fact that he was always there for her. Same with Silver, who kept to himself, staring at the shotgun. I looked over to him and let the other 2 walk on ahead, and I walked beside Silvergunner as he looked to me with his robotic eyes glowing. I know these ponies and zebra. I know them. I just can't remember them. All I know is that they gave me this shotgun. Silver sighed, looking at the gun. He stared at the name and looked down, wanting to remember. Remembrance. He wants to remember them so much, but it seems he never will unless something triggers it in his head. Hopefully, someday he will remember. I looked ahead of us, seeing small scorpions along the ground, as they seemed to just avoid us. This walk would take us half a day, I was told. I looked over to Kip and Shadow, who were laughing and talking. I smiled, enjoying the fact that we were back to normal for the time being. I looked over to Silver, who just kept walking. He stayed silent, holding the shotgun and trying to remember. If he had a heart, I'm sure he would be crying a bit right now, but I doubt he can. I feel bad for him, real bad. I wish I could help him. I watched ahead, closing my eyes, feeling rain starting to fall on us. But of course, we didn't care, and kept moving. I looked to the others, and I saw the fog forming, and I stopped, turning to see the fog wolves, as they started to speak, as the others stopped to look.
Don't go on, sister. The seal is there for a reason.
They vanish, as the fog takes them away, like they weren't even there. Taria, why did you stop? I blinked, turning to them, seeing Kip come up to me with a worrying look. I looked back, seeing nothing, and then back to Kip.
Sorry, just thinking.
I smiled and kept walking along. I felt something was bothering me after that. I looked to the top of a rock, seeing the fog wolves again. It seems they were trying to tell me something, but I have no idea what they were trying to say, and we kept walking through the land of the rad scorpions. But it seems we didn't encounter any of them. I kept my gun armed and waited for them to show up. It seems they're in hiding, Shadow said calmly, looking around with his blue eyes watching. As we get closer to our destination, the port town, on the map, that was called Speaker of Waves. I blinked, staring at that name. Speaker of Waves? Yeesh. Who names these places? And why do ponies name things so strangely? I looked up, seeing the wolves again, but this time, my friends saw them too. They started to speak to me again. We stopped as they started to speak.
Keep walking, sister. We are keeping the minions of the poison from you with our fog. But take heart. If you find the seal, destroy it. Don't allow them to open it.
I looked to my friends, who looked at me.
Let's go.
They moved to let us walk as we watched the fog come from their bodies and their mouths. The fog wolves' bodies seemed to be made of the very fog, as well as the kips of time. Then the fog made them vanish, as it seems the fog is keeping the crazy scorpions from harming us. Looking up, we saw that we were 2 hours away from where we had to go. Our stomachs started to rumble, and I chuckled softly.
It seems I am hungry.
Kip nods, and we find a spot an hour away from where we need to go. She puts up her magic torches, and we start a fire and just sit there, watching our food cook. Silver Gunner walks around the camp, patrolling, making sure we don't get harmed. I sat there thinking of what was said to me. I am going to die, but I am also going to have a little one that comes through this. Hopefully, Sand will be able to raise them. I looked at the meat cook and felt my hunger growing, but I felt that my pain was growing. It seems that my choices are going to cause either my friends to live or to die. I remember the start of the journey being forced to leave from my species. It's been almost 2 months since I found my friends. I looked at Kip and Shadow, who were chatting, and he seems to be trying to get her to have foals with Crossfire, as she blushes and giggles. I smiled at that, but I looked back at the meat. Has the wasteland beaten my honor? If I die from a pup, has my honor been taken by the waste? Has the golem of the waste beaten me? I keep looking, closing my eyes and feeling my will failing a bit. But I need to keep moving. I need to gather my thoughts. I looked to the meat again, and it was placed in a bowl and floated to me, and I smiled to Kip. She had a gentle smile on her face as she leans on Shadow and gives him meat as well. I calmly eat as I thought about something that I never thought I would. Would I make a good mother if I lived? Would I make a good leader? Turia? I looked over to Kip, and she has a worried look. Are you okay? You seem to be bothered by something. I smiled, shaking my head. Don't worry, Kip. I'm just thinking. Just thinking of the future, you could say. Shadow nods. I went back to eating, closing my eyes, and looked at the pitbuck. This fog, this time, was not causing my pitbuck to go nuts. I find that strange. Really strange. But I just focused on eating and drinking from my canteen that held a bit of a dirty water, but I had to drink. Something strange was going on with this stable. Why would these wolves care if I opened it? I calmly set down the bowl, and Kip takes it back to place it in her bag. I stood up a bit, watching, as I noticed the fire torches, burning soft and soothing as I got near it. I looked at them. Magic? How does magic work like this? I felt so unsure around these torches. I feel that my life is calm. I think it's a way for Kip to calm the wounded as she works on them. I stood there a while as I watched the fog lift a bit to show us the port town. From what I could see, it looks very run down. I closed my eyes again and felt my head and heart. I felt my heart slowly beating. My brain was hurting from thinking too hard about this. I need to relax and just let my life continue without hurting. I sat back down, and we waited a little longer before heading to our next path. I started to feel my body was falling apart, but this is probably because of all the insane shit I did, carrying that orb. I looked to my arm that was still wrapped up. I looked at Kip, who was eating carrots, and Shadow, who was eating his meat, and they seemed worried about me. I could tell that Kip told Shadow and Silvergunner what was going to happen to me. You and Silver know, don't you, Shadow? Kip's ears fall. No, what, Turia? I blinked for a moment and closed my eyes and sighed. Never mind. Shadow looked at Kip, and I stood up and helped Kip get everything ready by blowing out the torches. She takes them apart, placing most of the gear inside Silvergunner, but her first aid kits and her shotgun. She looked towards me, and I gave her a gentle smile, and she gave a weak smile back. We start our walk again, seeing how it's going to be hard to find this seal. Speaker of waves. We walk into the town as the fog doesn't seem to be in this part. I looked around calmly, seeing no bodies, no bones, just nothing, except buildings that just seemed to be empty. I looked at them and smiled. I looked around calmly and sighed. Why do I feel like something bad is going to happen? Kip looked to me, and then she shivered, and so did Shadow, and Silver looked to us. Did someone just walk over my grave? I felt a voice in my mind.
Please, free me, child. Searching for the seals? This empty war that caused so much death?
I held my head, and then I looked up, looking around, finally seeing what happened here. Whatever this thing is, it's showing us the past, and somehow even showing Silver. Speaker of waves, the past.
See what happened here, children of the past. Please see.
All of us opened our eyes, seeing the war didn't make it here, but the ponies attacked each other.
It was sister on sister, a small battle to protect the zebras within this little town. Some refused to follow what the government was saying, in the seal. It was an experiment, since some of the ponies brought here were criminals mixed into the normal group. The POW camp enjoyed the irony of testing things like this. No pony was innocent in this war.
I finally would be the one who asked the question.
Who are you?
The flash would end, and standing there would be zebras right in front of us. Zebras have lived here all their lives? But then they vanished, showing that the entire town is just a ghost town because of the seal. Back to the normal world. Our vision cleared, and we stood in the middle of the town still, and I looked to the others.
It just comes clear, doesn't it? Oh, it does.
I rolled my eyes and got more and more pissed off at the ponies. My anger got to me so much that I howled deeply. It echoed softly as I closed my eyes and kneeled.
How can ponies even think of working together anymore? How can we even see them becoming to that path? That path that will never end. If we save them, will the future just turn back?
I sighed, closing my eyes, not sure if I should keep moving. Kip put her hoof on my shoulder and nuzzled me.
Turia, you can't keep blaming all the ponies in the past or the future for the mistakes. We need to move on and find this seal, and then learn what happened here.
The others nodded, and I sighed, closing my eyes, and I stood back up and looked around.
I think we should check all the buildings. We might find out what happened here.
They nodded, and Silver went to the library first, and we all followed him. He turned his eyes on, and all the books all over the floor had the pages ripped out.
What in the world?
Kip said, looking at the mess. Shadow looked through the pages. I looked through the terminal.
From what I see here, it seems no pony even took out books at all. And this town was fully built a month before the war ended, because they ordered all these books a day before it ended. But why would this be in here? You would think all of this info they have in here is in the town hall.
I looked up from the terminal.
There is nothing here about a book from a warden.
I closed my eyes. What would hold a seal? I blinked a moment. A place for trinkets.
Kip, what is a place you place old trinkets in?
Kip blinks and thinks a moment.
Oh, yes, a museum?
I nodded.
Let's find it.
I got up from the chair, and Shadow blinked, staring at one of the books, and he heard a sound and followed it. He saw a female griffin. She was in a net, while her friends seemed to be dead. She looks at him with fear and speaks with fear.
Are you here to kill us?
I blinked and noticed, seeing no bodies. And Shadow looks again and doesn't see the bodies either, and looks up from the net. Miss, you should look again. The female looks back down, seeing no bodies, and shakes.
This town scared off my friends. We came to look for food. I am Owlbeak.
Shadow stared at her. He seemed to enjoy how she looked. I looked to him and put my paw in front of his eyes to see if he was still there.
Shadow? Now is not the time.
He blinked, looking at me. What? I'm staring at a female of my species. Is that a bad thing? Kip laughs loudly. I rolled my eyes and mouthed, males. I undid the net and helped her down. She rushed out of the room and looked around.
Look, go. Head to the POW camp. It's not far from here. You will find help there.
She nodded and flew off. I am so gonna have her as mine. I facepawed, and Kip laughed. I facepawed, and Kip laughed, and Silver looked at him. Is this normal for your species, then? Suddenly telling a female that she will be yours? Suddenly, at first look? Shadow blinks, looking to Silver. Well, no. But for me it's normal. Because hey, She's beautiful. I deserve something at least. I just rolled my eyes again.
Focus?
Shadow looked at me, and so did Silver, and I looked at Kip, who had a gentle smile on her face.
All right, now let's go to the museum and find the seal.
They nodded, and we walked back out of the building and looked around.
Now, if only I could find it,
I said, stroking the back of my head with a paw and a soft snort from my nose. Silver went ahead of us and pointed his hoof to it. How this town was set up was odd. The museum right by the docks? I looked down to see a body leaning against a wall. It was all bones, and it was not wearing any clothing. But I looked through it and found a small little card with strange markings on it and placed it in my bag. It was interesting. It was the only body that I found. We went inside the museum. Silver stood by the door, guarding it. I will stay here. You get going. I nodded, and Shadow along with Kip followed me. We went into the old relic room. Kip looked through one of them. She read the plaque and tried to get it out of the glass. Shadow grabbed the Chewer minigun, smashing the case with it, and Kip uses her magic to look at the old relic with ancient writing on it. She placed it in her bag. As I kept looking, I found an old book and opened the case, looking through it. I shrugged and put it in my bag. But of course, none of us heard it, but a silent alarm went off. Shadow and Kip kept taking strange items that would be mistaken for seals. Then robots started coming in, and one yelled, "Exterminate!" I blinked, looking towards the robots, and I thought, oh, wonderful. I grabbed my pistol and fired at them, and they fired lasers back at me, and I rushed back out quickly to get out of the door.
Come on!
Kip and Shadow rushed back out, and Silver Gunner still stood at the door. What did you three do now? I looked at Silver with anger in my eyes.
Oh, I don't know. Let's see. Robots wish to kill us? Anything else?
Silver chuckled, and the robots rushed out of the room, and Kip pulled her shotgun out of her bag with her magic and blasted one of them, blowing the head off. Shadow grabbed the Chewer and used it like it was a giant club, smashing one of them over and over. Then a voice came out of the PA. Self-destruct set in 30 seconds. I blinked and ran out with the others as quick as we could, and then we got out. Boom. The entire building went up, and I went flying into a window and landed in a building, knocked out completely. 2 days later, I woke up in the same room and stood up. No bones broken, just a lot of blood on my arms from the glass. I went out to look for Silver, Kip, and Shadow, but I found no trace of them. I looked to the former museum that had blown up. The building was still on fire a bit. I looked down. Who the hell had it in their right mind to put a self-destruct in a museum? I looked around and I yelled out, Kip! Shadow! Silver! My voice echoed. I heard nothing. I was alone. Could they be dead? Could something have happened to them? I lowered my eyes. What would I tell Crossfire? What would I tell him? Oh, I am sorry, Crossfire. I lost track of your wife. I sat down and felt the doubt filling me again. I closed my eyes and breathed deeply. I felt my emotions going through so many ways. No tears coming from my eyes. I stood back up on all 4 paws. I slowly walked through the burning town. Heading back out, what will I tell them? Despair filling my heart. I closed my eyes and just walked along the dead ground. Rain started to pour down with the occasional lightning strikes. I was walking back, but the pouring got so hard I had to hide in a cave. I opened my bag to get some water from my canteen. I drank from it and looked through my bag again, but I found no food at all. I laid down, watching from the cave, seeing the rain just falling over and over. Alone. Again. Did I deserve friends at all? Did they die because of me? I closed my eyes and let the sleep take me. Day 54, early morning. I opened my eyes and the rain stopped. I headed outside of the cave, following the old path back to the camp. I knew it would be a long trek. Then, I heard a voice. "Hey kid, you seem to be alone here." I looked up, my heart stopping, seeing Shadow land beside me, and Kip rushing to hug me, and Fleur along with a few other ponies, even Cannonball to find me.
You found me, but I thought I led you to your deaths.
Kip had tears falling from her eyes and hugged me tightly, looking to Fleur and smiled. "Well, the bomb did knock us out, and Silver dragged us back. So there is that, but we wanted to come back and find you." I nodded and passed out from the pain in my legs. Day 55, hospital. I opened my eyes, and Fleur and Kip were pulling the glass from my body, wrapping what they could with bandages. I looked like a real mess. I groaned, and Fleur used her magic to stop me from talking and moving.
"You need to rest, Taria."
I sighed, laying there resting, and when they finished, Kip and Fleur sat by the bed, watching me. I could tell in their eyes that they were very worried about me. I never thought a ghoul would care, but I have learned that even if she is decaying and dead, she has a big heart. Kip is just Kip being motherly. I laid there, not sure what to think.
I screwed up, didn't I?
Fleur blinks and smiles. "Not at all, Taria." Kip tried to reassure me.
"You need to relax and not worry so much, my darling friend,"
Fleur said with a gentle nuzzle on my arm. I smiled softly, and Lily walked in. I looked to her. She looked through Kip's bag, finding a large tablet and shattering it. I blinked and watched them look through my bags next, and finding the small little card I found. "Ah, thank you, Miss Taria. You found the seal." I blinked and sat up despite the pain.
You mean to tell me that little thing is the seal?
She looked up to me with a blink and nodded. Not all ponies were insane to put seals in crazy large items, Taria. Some used little items, like this, because it made more sense and less to be stolen. You can tell just by the word written here. She smiled at me, and I sighed, groaning, my head throbbing. Oh, gods, I'm starting to hate ponies even more now. Kip giggled. I do find that interesting that ponies of old felt that something too big was too much. Kip giggles and walked out, heading to meet Crossfire. And Fleur forced me back down with her magic.
"There is someone that wants to talk to you."
I nodded and laid there as Fleur floated something on my chest, and I looked to see Starshooter, and she was giggling, nuzzling on me, and I laughed.
Hello, little one.
I stroked her head.
You want another story?
She gave me a nod as Fleur came back over and whispered in my ear.
"I need to get back to my cruise ship to help take it apart. Please don't get hurt anymore. I don't want to have to tie you down and force you to heal."
I smiled at her, and she winks and trotted out, as I held the little one.
Ah yes, a story. How about the story of a young wolf female that found friends in a broken land?
She nodded with a large smile on her face.
Ah yes, the young female left her home to find adventure. Her first part of her journey, she ran into some monsters. Big, nasty monsters.
I had no heart to tell her it was ponies. She seems so innocent. She looks at me with her big eyes, and I couldn't help but smile. Starseeker was going to be a wonderful scribe someday.
She fought them with vigor and honor, but to no avail. She was captured.
She gasped, and her eyes were full of wonder.
She was told that she would be given to an evil monster known as Trot Trot, because every time he ran, he trotted. But yes, she found herself her first friend, a little cat named Hissy. Hissy was a sweet little kitty that spoke like a little girl, and was always the one that caused the evil to find her.
I chuckled softly. Her eyes were still full and big, wanting to hear more. She giggled and danced around, mimicking the parts I said in the story. I chuckled and watched the little filly giggle more as I sat up, stroking her back.
Let's see. She followed the little kitty on an adventure, and they both saw a sign that was painted in jelly, saying the jelly donut was here. She followed the kitty to run into a flower, an angry flower, that tried so hard to get them to steal the hearts of every living plant and stop the strange one from being so puny.
She giggled, and I smiled softly, and after a while I tried to continue with the story, but her mother walked in. I looked to the former raider, who still had all her scars. She helped the little one off the bed, and she came back to me when the little filly left. Thank you, Taria. I'm trying to keep her life innocent. She melted mine and my husband's hearts. Thank you so much for what you did for us. I smiled and nodded as she trotted out. I gently got off the bed and walked out of the hospital. I hated the smell of it. I walked to the stable to see them getting the little card near it, and Lily looked to me and smiled. I'm going to need one more seal, but no rush. I need to read on where they went first, and then I'll have you go for them. I gave a nod.
What is in there? Do you know?
She looked at me again and shook her head. Sadly, I don't. I read up they may have experimented on prisoners in there, but that's all I know, really. I hope to find out more, but if we can get this to open, we might find more than just weapons in there. We might find out why they built this vault in an old camp. This camp has been around way before the war started. It was used to hold Equestria's criminals, but then it turned into holding prisoners of war. So something changed down the line. To make a change that drastic. I gave a nod. I let them do what they needed to. I was stopped by Sand, and he smiled at me, and we nuzzled closely. I was thinking, Taria, would you like to come with me to a romantic dinner? I gave a blink and smiled.
I would love to.
He led me to the bar, as the table was already set up thanks to the bartender, and there was calm violin music playing. I looked to see a robot that a trader gave us that played the gentle violin music. There were 2 slabs of meat and some old wine. I felt my heart jump at this. A romantic night, and I haven't told him yet that I would be dying when her pup is born. Why ruin it? He smiled and chuckled. I know this is not normal for our kind, but Crossfire told me this is how ponies do it, and I guess, since our kind used to be ponies, we should at least do something like this. I chuckled softly and gave him a gentle smile, nodding.
I agree.
I heard some mechanical parts move, and I looked to Silvergunner, who was going to play something for us. He played a very gentle song.
Love me tender, love me sweet, never let me go.
He shorted out a moment and started singing again. I facepawed. I took the wine and calmly drank it as Silvergunner kept singing, but I could make it out this time. The song switched over into a saxophone and calmly played jazz music, along with the hovering robot that did the same. I drank the wine again and ate the meat calmly. In my mind, I felt how we are so lucky to have this peace, for the moment anyway. I'm sure others aren't having such an easy job, but we need to stay where we are, unless the time is right. I finished eating and drinking the wine as he walked with me along the little town, and looked towards him and smiled very gently. I finished eating and drinking the wine as he walked with me along the little town, and I looked towards him, and he smiled very gently at me, and we sat on the gate. Bulwark was near us, and she watched us with a smile. It was so beautiful. The bog, the ghouls, the fog. Yuck. This place was gross if you kept looking at it like this. It's something I hope that someday would be cleared. I closed my eyes soon. I felt that a battle would be fought, and I would have to be part of it. Taria, I looked towards him and he placed a bullet-made ring around my neck, and I looked at it calmly.
What is this about?
He smiled and kissed me deeply, and I broke it gently, but I had to find out what this was about.
What is this?
Sand chuckled. It's basically me asking you to be my mate for life. I blinked. My eyes go wide, tears falling, looking away.
I can't do that, Sand. I do love you, but I can't be with anyone for life. But I want you to be there for the pup.
Sand looked down and nodded. I understand, Taria. It's all new to you. Maybe someday you'll change your mind. He got off the gate. I looked at Bulwark, who came close to me and put her head on my shoulder. Something wrong, Taria? He had been working on this for almost a week. I sighed.
Bulwark, you have to promise that you don't tell him.
She gave a nod.
When I give birth, there is a small chance that I might die.
She blinked, looking at me with fear in her eyes. You need to tell him, Taria. How would he think if the pup he made with you caused you to die? I nodded. She gave me a tight hug, and I nuzzled her calmly, staying silent, as I watched the gate with her.
It seems lonely up here, Bulwark. How do you do it?
She looked towards me with a smile. It's not that boring. Tiny normally comes up here and says hello to me and joins me. Sometimes R.A. Proto jumps up here and watches with me. I take this job very, very seriously. I nodded, and I sat here watching the gate with my friend. I looked to see the wolves again, and they spoke.
Destroy the seal. Destroy the seal. Sister, destroy the seals.
Then they vanished. I'm starting to wonder if looking for these seals is a bad thing. But I feel that opening the stable would be a good thing, to help the ponies here. I closed my eyes, thinking of the little ones, including Starshooter. Hopefully, someday the world will go back to normal. But at the moment, all I can do is wish that she will be safe, and safe even after I pass. So I wait as this peaceful night goes, helping my friend Bulwark watch the gate.